Hey guys, what's up? It's your boy, the Knight of Justice, back again with another power scaling video. It's been a while, let's say, what, 3 months, and I haven't done a video yet? Well, if you guys have seen my community tab, I have told you that I have got a new job and stuff, so I won't be able to upload videos that as frequently. But I am trying. But, like I said, we're here for another power scaling video. Or should I say, more of a narrative how good this character is in my opinion video. So in this video, we'll be talking about the greatest moments performed by Thor and the greatest stories I've read over the past year that I found to be very interesting regarding Thor's overall character or his overall role as the God of Thunder. But if you like the video, please hit like, share, and subscribe, and hit that notification bell up top to stay tuned for when videos come out. Now, this video is based on my opinion of the feats and how impressive they are to me. So don't get mad if your favorite feat is not mentioned in this video. Alright? I'm just saying this video is strictly based on how I saw the feats and how they're performed in the way I think is impressive. So let's get that out of the way. But before we actually get into the feats, I want to give a shout out to my friend Royal from Discord. He made this beautiful background for Thor on the Thor that's going to be described in this video. And I want to say thank you to him for making this for me. So thank you, Royal. Your work has been shown appreciation. You're a good man. And since I spent a lot of time making this script, I decided to make this into 2 parts. This will be part 1 of Thor's greatest moments. But never fear, part 2 will be just as spectacular as part 1. Now, let's get into the top 5 greatest moments performed by Thor. Here we go. At number 5, Thor absorbing the God Bomb and beating Gorr the God Butcher in God of Thunder issue 11. In Jason Aaron's God of Thunder run, Thor encountered a powerful mortal known as Gorr, who has empowered by the gods he has killed by using the Necrosword. The Necrosword, or the All Black, used this power to kill the gods and eventually used this weapon to create a bomb to wipe out all gods across all of time in existence. Modern Thor, Young Thor, and Old King Thor combined forces to take down Gorr the God Butcher, and modern Thor absorbed the God Bomb into himself and used it to kill Gorr. I pretty much like this whole thing when this Thor absorbing this powerful bomb into himself and empowering it and become this dark all black version of Thor. This absorbing the Necrosword and becoming like a dark knight, I could say. It's pretty badass. It just looks cool. At number 4, we get the Fear Itself event. Thor fights and defeats the Serpent in Fear Itself issue 7. In this run, Thor and the Avengers have to go up against the powerful skyfighter being known as the Serpent, or Kolborson, uncle of Thor and brother of Odin. In order to fulfill his plan, the Serpent gives 7 enhanced hammers for his henchmen known as the Worthy. This would include people such as Hulk, Thing, Atuma, Azoriman, Titania, Grey Gargoyle, and the Juggernaut. These Worthy, under the Serpent's command, use them to spread chaos and fear across the world, feeding him, making him much more powerful and stronger, regaining his full power. Cole was imprisoned in an underwater tomb guarded by dragons. Red Skull's daughter finds Cole, and raps say that he is the true Allfather of Asgard and says he has returned. After, we see Odin sensing Red Skull's daughter and his brother Cole, or Odin calls him the Serpent, saying that he has returned. Odin stops the feast between the Asgardians and the Avengers and say that everyone must return and he is coming, and that the gods must leave for home. Thor disagrees with his father, with Odin hitting him across the face, with Or then trying to attack Odin, with him commanding Mjolnir to drop, and proceeds to beat on Thor some more. Odin then tells Thor he's coming back to Asgard, either willingly or in chains, taking him back to Asgard. With the serpent free, he says he must summon his worthy, and the earth must fear his power. 7 hammers land in various locations on Earth, with Spider-Man asking Cap what happened, with Steve responding, "The gods have left us." The hammers go to each member of the Serpent's worthy, to Juggernaut, Hulk, Thing, and the others, with the Serpent and Red Skull's daughter mobilizing their troops and laying waste to Washington, D.C. In Asgard, Loki tricks the guards watching over Thor in his prison cell, eating food, and then puts them to sleep, and he sets Thor free. Thor and Loki escape the prison. Loki then explains to Thor that Asgard has been rebuilt as a war machine in preparation to attack Earth, and he attempts to stop the serpent. Loki leads his brother to a small group of Asgardians who do not agree with Odin's plan. Odin discovers them, but Thor manages to persuade his father into giving him time to defend Earth, and he gives back Mjolnir. In Washington, D.C., the battered Captain America continues to batter Red Skull's daughter, but is soon beaten to the ground. She then tears off his bionic arm and pounds into the bottom with his hammer into his chest. After leaving him to die, Black Widow, Falcon, Shang-Chi, and Valkyrie gather around him with his last amount's breath, saying, "Captain America, tell Black Widow to warn the others that the serpent is coming." Thor returns to Earth from Broxton, Oklahoma, where he is greeted by a mob of people angry at him and the rest of the Asgardians, after being told to move on by a mad resistance. He flies away aboard the Quinn carrier. Tony Stark and Nick Fury stand over Bucky Barnes' dead body. With Romanoff questions Tony and Fury about what they know about the serpent, who Bucky mentions to her in his final moments. Thor arrives and tells them that the serpent feeds on people's fear and grows stronger from it. Not only that, he tells them that Odin has a plan to destroy Earth and the serpent along with it. Nick Fury tells Tony and Thor to go to get Steve Rogers, who resumes the title of Captain America in Bucky's stead. Steve asks for a rundown on what's happening. Tony tells him about the worthy hammers and is told to come up with the counter weapon. Thor explains to Steve that the serpent is a similar being to his father and feeds on the fear of others. He also tells him the prophecy involving him slaying a serpent and dying at its hands. Steve asks him to speak to the serpent. Maria Hill asks Steve to come see something. Meanwhile, a boy fishing by himself in British Columbia sees several Atlantean bodies come to the surface. This is because of the breaker of oceans, Atumo. This gives the serpent all of the power he needs to reach his full power. His staff becomes a hammer, which he uses to raise as a citadel. Maria, Hill, Thor, Steve, and Tony witness it rise from Maria's computer monitor. Shortly after, they head off in different directions. Thor heads to the Arctic to confront the serpent. Tony heads to Oklahoma to speak to Odin. Steve lands in Manhattan to join the Avengers to fight against Red Skull's forces, who has entered New York. The serpent becomes aware of Thor's arrival and sends his troops. Tony's hopes of giving Odin attentions sacrifices his purpose of drinking a bottle of wine given him by Hammer Industries. Congratulations for being able to rebuild Asgard. As Thor continues to wipe out the serpent soldier, the serpent shows his face. In Manhattan, Red Skull's daughter spots Steve from atop a rooftop and rejoins in the opportunity to kill Captain America a second time. Tony's sacrifice does not go unnoticed, and he manages to get the audience of Odin. Red Skull's daughter jumps off the rooftops and attacks Steve with her mighty hammer. The serpent tells Thor about how he was the first of Asgard, and Odin is his brother, making him Thor's nephew of this. The serpent offers him a chance to work with him to defeat Odin, and offers Thor refuses. He then attacks the serpent, only to be sent back to New York, where he must instead face Null, Breaker of Worlds, and the Argument, Breaker of Souls. As Thor fights the Breaker of Souls and Null, Breaker of Worlds, Captain America and the Avengers take on Red Skull's daughter. Meanwhile, Tony has won an audience with Odin and requests that he be allowed to build new weapons in his workshop. On the battlefield, Thor sent Mjolnir through the Breaker of Souls' chest, putting him out of commission, while Thor violently battles Null. Franklin Richards and Veronica Richards find Ben Grimm, which is the Breaker of Souls, who regains his humanity but is on the verge of death. As Cap fights Red Skull's daughter, the serpent arrives on a floating dark Avengers on the floating dark Asgard. As Cap fights Red Skull's daughter, the serpent arrives on the floating black Asgard and pronounces to the world. He proclaims to the world he is now his new order, and everyone bows down to him. He joins Red Skull's daughter on the ground, but is challenged by the Avengers. Their attempt to stop him has failed, and they are all blasted away by the serpent's hammer. Cap tosses his shield at the serpent with an iconic showing of him catching it and easily breaking it over him. With a swing of his hammer, he completely destroys and surrounds the surrounding area, knocking out Cap into an unconscious state. An exhausted Thor is still fighting Null. Knowing that he cannot win this condition, he sends Null into orbit, where he is sent falling to an unknown location. Thor then says, "To be continued, Banner," and then collapses. The Avengers carry an exhausted Thor to Asgard via Heimdall's observation to heal him. But, fearing that people would panic if they saw them retreat, the new Avengers stay behind to run New York's evacuation. When they arrive in Asgard, Odin and his army stand ready to decimate all of Earth. Cap orders him to heal Thor, but they are forced out, leaving only Thor behind. The Avengers are set to fallen Asgard and back to Oklahoma. Meanwhile, the Serpent and Red Skull's daughter are heading for the World Tree for the final battle. Red Skull's daughter fears that if the prophecy were true, that would mean the serpent would die. He tells her that even if he dies, she will take his place. Back in Asgard, Odin tends to Thor's wounds and offers him another chance to join with him instead of dying with the humans. Thor declines, believing it is not right to destroy one world to save another. Odin then confesses that the serpent is his brother. He gives Thor his old armor, and the Odin sword, revealing that its true name is Ragnarok, which he used in his fight against the serpent long ago. Thor then asks his father if the serpent is truly the Allfather. Odin softly confesses that he had lied about a great many things to all of Asgard by wiping his own brother from the histories of them. Outside Braxton, Oklahoma, Captain America lets out a storm of bullets at the serpent. His worthy and the Thor Society covered of the World Tree. By the portal to Asgard, Iron Man and Thor have returned, with the dwarves of Svartalheim bearing the weapons he forged with the mystical metals. Uru were blessed by Odin. The weapons are distributed to Doctor Strange, Hawkeye, Iron Fist, Red She-Hulk, Miss Marvel, Spider-Man, Black Widow, and Wolverine, and they all go to aid Captain America in his defense against the world. The serpent transforms into a massive dragon and battles Thor, while the Avengers take on the worthy. When Thor throws Mjolnir into the serpent's mouth, it balances close to Captain America's position. Rick arrives with a host of Braxton citizens and helps up Captain America. Captain America picks up Mjolnir, with him declaring today that they are all Avengers, and shouts out, "Avengers assemble." As the battle rages on, the Serpent declares that humanity shall end. Thor renounced that for all the time he spent in prison underwater, he knows nothing about humans, nor what they are capable of. Just as Odin prepared Asgard to march on Earth and destroy it, Thor slays his uncle with the Odin sword and dies in the arms of his father, fulfilling the prophecy while the hammers of the worthy flee their hosts. At the same time as with the serpent's death, all the chaos around the world disperses and subdues. The day after the battle, while the Avengers prepare Thor's funeral, Odin takes his brother, corpse, back to Asgard, who he calls Cole, casts out all the other Asgardians, and locks himself alone with the body of guards to guard him until the end of this time, blaming himself for not only slaying a member of his family, but not saving his family. I do enjoy this story that involves Thor, with him working alongside the humans to fight against a common enemy, of a warrior, an enemy from the past, an enemy from his father's past, and him trying to prove to Odin and the serpent that humans are stronger than they realize, that they are not weak, and that Thor's strong belief in humanity proved overall that they did beat the serpent. I do enjoy the stories like this. At number 3, I want to discuss the next moment in the events that happened in King Thor of 2020, issues 1 through 4. First, we see in the ruins of Omnipotent City, the goddesses of thunder, Thor's grandchildren, search in the muscle halls for clues that could help their grandfather. Thor Odinson, passing the Mjolnir corpse of a long-dead alien gods, claims that the ruins stink of death, adding that they shouldn't be here. Agreeing with her hot-tempered sister, Frigg tells Elivin that they should turn back, but Elivin refuses as they enter what was once the Hall of All-Knowing. Attila complains that the decaying books will smell like a bitter rock front, whatever that is, and Frigg regulates that they need to go back to Asgard and help their grandfather prepare for his final battle. Scanning the decaying shelves, Elivin wonders how life is supposed to be praised when even the gods cannot. A voice answers that it isn't, and the three goddesses turn to see an elder four-eyed god with tendrils from his head. The elder god states that life is supposed to fade away and die, before remarking that a very long time ago he was supposed to have died as well, asking the three gods if he is indeed still alive. Attila complains that they found was a madman. Elliot asks him if he is the Lord High Librarian. He replies that he helped the original Lord High Librarian with his duties and took over for a few million years after. The Lord High Elephant grew too old to do it himself, introducing himself as Sharkatir. The elder deity remarks that he has forgotten what he was the god of. The time when Gordo God Butcher could have, Elevin protests that the gods of the universe can't all be gone. They cannot all be gone. Shigart states that he well aware of the purpose of their visit, relying allies for the last stand against the all-black Necrosword, the primordial symbiote forged at the beginning of another universe by Null, stolen by Gord, willed by Thor of the past and their own grandfather, and passed down over millennia from Galactus to Ego, and finally to their great uncle, Loki. Before the four-eyed god finished, he is attacked by a Necro Raven, conjured by the living abyss, and Loki's, called the Black Butcher. As the gods has fended off the Necro Ravens, Eleven tells Shigga that she's thoroughly researched the history of the Necro Sword and its wielders, having fought against Gore herself eons ago. Badly wounded, Shigga tells her that she doesn't have the whole story because it hasn't ended, pointing to the book titled The Saga of the God Butcher, and saying that it hasn't finished writing yet, and saying that the book hasn't finished writing itself. Amidst the flaming ruins of Asgard, All-Father Thor and Loki, the Necro God, clash, Mjolnir against the All-Black. As Thor fiercely bashed Loki from the destroyed Asgard, Loki marched, saying that Thor thought he could be contained in a pit of Muspelheim vapors, but he ate them and escaped, devouring Necro ego on his way there, announcing his intents to destroy everything, starting with Thor. Loki smashed Thor through Asgard, the land crashing of the rotting world amongst amusing napalm. Thor throws Mjolnir and tells it to weather itself in the flames of the nearest star. Slashing Thor, Loki steers that Mjolnir will not be able to save him, taunting him, starting with his minions, are killing Thor's grandchildren, even as they speak. Enraging Thor blasts Loki at point-blank range with the full power of the Thor force, to no effect. All-Father Thor recalls that it had taken himself from 2 past iterations to defeat Gore, who had been a mere mortal before his unveiling the Necro Sword, and they had barely succeeded in defeating him, while Loki had been born a frost giant and raised by the Asgardians. As Mjolnir returned, weathering the shield of the plasma, Loki mockingly asks if he thinks a little flame will stop him. A little fire will be enough to defeat him, replying that he knows it won't. Thor says that he hopes that at least hurt, and slams the flames into the nearby pool of napalm. A mass chunk of the planet explodes, injecting Thor and Loki into space. Thor recalls his lifetime immensely with his brother, dashing hopes that he would someday be redeemed, accepting that if he and his granddaughters are to live, then his brother must die. In the halls of the All-Knowing, the granddaughters continue to battle against Loki's Necro Ravens as Iliven senses Asgard's destruction. Frigg snaps that they need to return now, but Sigurd says they will be too late even before they arrive. Frigg refuses to accept this and snaps that Sigurd is clearly insane, to which he agrees. But Iliven snaps that this isn't about Asgard themselves or even Thor, but about stopping Loki and saving what is left of the universe. Attila lashes out at several of Necro Ravens amongst a massive corvid and tries to eat her, regrouping with her sisters, and Sigurd pulls out a shard of the Bifrost. Iliven asks Sigurd where should they go, but Sigurd steps away and says that he's not going with them. Quickly, that the librarians never leave his books. Sigurd gives Iliven the saga of the Gore, the god of the God Butcher, and tells her to end it by going back to the beginning, remarking that he's finally remembered what he is the god of. Sigurd conjures a bomb and bids the goddesses of thunder farewell as they teleport using the shard of the Bifrost. Sigurd detonates his bomb and obliterates Omnipotent City. Across the cosmos, Thor senses the destruction of Omnipotent City. Loki greedily remarks that this is the end of the gods and the lives of the eternal life. Disemboweling Thor with the All-Black, Loki boasts that he is the bringer of the forbidden truth, that nothing lasts forever except for him. Thor realizes that Loki is for once speaking the truth. and that all his eons of struggling has been in vain, as nothing is left except for hatred and pity, sibling jealousy. Grabbing Thor, Loki mocks, telling his brother that he killed Odin by whispering every single one of his sins into the old Allfather's ear. Livid, Thor snaps that Loki is lying, and that he killed Odin, putting him out of his misery when he was smiling, and used all of Jotunheim as a funeral pyre. Grabbing Loki, Thor snaps that Freya died of a broken heart from Loki's bad side of evil, cursing that she ever loved him and believed in him, telling Loki that he regrets having done the same. Thor wraps his own intestines around Mjolnir and Loki's throat, throwing the divine weapon into the sun, weeping as he realized that he became the new god of lies for mourning his brother. Thor watched, and suddenly honor as a living abyss consumes the star. Loki bursts out, freely quoting that he's just murdering the sun. Stabbing Thor with dozens of blades, Loki slams him into the surface of New Midgard and gloats that he's going to have fun slaughtering all of humanity all over again. Thor tries to recall Mjolnir back from this dying sun, but the tendrils of the living abyss contains it. Unable to move, Thor prays to any god that remains, asking them to avenge the universe. His eyes glow yellow. Loki shears that there will be nothing left to avenge, and that he will live so long in the empty abyss that he'll forget there will be nothing left. That he'll forget Thor ever existed. Loki is promptly impaled from behind by a blade of the living abyss. As a second figure beyond the All Black, a voice strongly breathes from the sheer shadow, while the last of the universe weeps around them. To Thor's disbelief and horror, Gorr the God Butcher is back from the dead, looming over the God of Thunder and his brother, shearing that this is why he hates gods and wants to kill them all. In issue 2, All-Father Thor dismally protests that he should be dead. Gorr agrees and says that he was dead, his consciousness stored inside the all-black Necrosword, maiming and crumbling for Thor. Gorr limps that he is the first in eons he was finally at peace in a world without gods, only to be uncursedly revived by All-King Loki. Loki turned to Gorr, asking if the embodiment of the everything he hates about deities has any lives for him, but Loki instead offers up the remains of the All Black. Still bonded to him, Thor protests that Gorr will kill Loki too, but Gorr silences him and replies that Loki is likely aware of that. Streaming Gorr's acknowledgement, Loki as a fellow butcher despite his deities, Loki replies that they have to compare bodies counts and discuss the maiming of the genocides. Chuckling, Gorr tells Loki and Thor that the god of lies resurrected him because even after eons of hatred and empathy, he wasn't sure he was able to go through with killing his own brother. As Gorr dismissed Loki as a coward child on the inside, and sadly asks if they should find out what All-Father Thor looks like on the inside. All-Father Thor retaliates by blasting Gorr with a beam of the Thor Force, sending him into orbit. Breaking free of his confines, Thor commands Loki to stand and fight alongside him, but Loki remains hanging from his confines and remarks that Gorr lied, but why he resurrected him. Thor arguably grumbles that he'll do everything himself like he always has, summoning Mjolnir from the abyss, the Black Sun, and from the ruins of Asgard, taking the Odin sword. cheering that Loki resurrect Gore because he wasn't sure he was going to go through with killing him. Thor snaps that Loki needs to show him more than fateful glimmers of hope for redemption, adding that if Loki refuses to help him, then he'll kill Gore by himself and come back to do what Loki couldn't, kill his brother. As Thor takes off in the pursuit of Gore, Loki chuckles before letting out a mischievous laugh. In orbit, Gore recalls how he died and blames the betrayal of his family on the gods, recalling the spread pieces of the Necrosword to himself. As Thor arrives shouting that Gore should have stayed dead and will now suffer with the wrath of Asgard, Gore manifests as all black as a colossal double-bladed sword he calls the annihilation of the planet Cleaver, achieving that he should have saved himself a lot of pain and trouble and just let him dispose of all the gods before finishing Thor off. Light years away, the Necro Ravens hovering over the goddess has suddenly disappeared, and Frigg wonders if the good sign of intimate limbered her pet shark. The Deathmouth is disappointed. As Frigg suggests they turn back, it eventually concludes that the saga of the God Butcher, and notes that Sigurd had told him to go back to the beginning, asks her sister how this saga began. Frigg reminds them that eons ago Thor had once been called a planet by a prayer, the same planet they are now approaching. On New Midgard, Loki snaps at a praying human to shut up and let him die in peace. As the human asks if he's praying right now, Loki brooks himself, saying that regardless of whether or not he's praying right, there are no gods left to answer them, and that soon they will all be dead. As the human says, he will pray for Loki as well. Loki angrily tells him to stop, and that is the end of everything. Elsewhere in the cosmos, Gore and Thor clash. Their battle shatters entire planets, recognizing the solar system as once with 3 dying suns. Thor decides to use them to envelop Gore and rebuild the cosmos from his ashes, merging the suns into one massive orb of plasma. Thor launches it at Gore, but Gore effortlessly carves through it. Gore shares that he likes Thor's plan and remarks that he finally realized his mistake in thinking that eliminating the gods would cause the mortals to realize they no longer need deities. Gore cocoons Thor with a goblet of living abyss and molds bones of the mortals who inhabit the shattered world, share that gods have left the universe. A channeled house, grabbing the bones and snapping it, Thor declares his intent to butcher all life in the universe, starts with Thor and proceeds with Midgard, and creates a new self-sustenance where no need for godly guidance, snapping that watching his creation fold with no idea of the old gods who had existed before would be the ultimate retribution of Thor. Gore grasps him and shares that deep down Thor knows he was right all along, that gods have no need in the lives of mortals. Before Gore can finish Thor off, a golden lasso snaps him around the neck. Loki snapping that he didn't resurrect Gore so that he could kill Thor, trying to strangle the god Butcher. Loki states that he's been longing to kill Thor since he was an infant, and dismisses Gore as a bow-legged caveman who found a magic rock. Gore fashionably severs off Loki's right arm and encases him in all black, remarking that he now understands that the life Loki could bear to take wasn't Thor but his own. Gore marks and blinding Loki, slowly congesting him, but Thor bashes him away. As Thor checks on his brother, Loki quotes to Gore he'll regret now cutting out his tongue, as he will tell he'll be foretelling Thor to get away while he has a chance. It means that he intends to kill Thor himself and then die by Gor's hands. As Loki's despair, Thor tries to rekindle his brother's fighting spirit by saying that he'd beaten Gore and countless other butchers like him before. Engulfing them in all black, Gore sneers that there are no other butchers like him, declares that he transcends morality long ago, still refusing to categorize himself as a god. Gore instead declares himself as a force of nature akin to an ocean and tells Thor to drown. Sinking into the All Black, Thor struggles to call out to Loki, who snaps at Thor to leave him to die, and better yet, to die alongside himself. To die alongside him, Thor tries to restore Loki's fighting spirit one last time by telling him that he lied about Freya, have given up on him, and that she died, saying that one day Loki would save them all, reaching out to his changed brother. Thor apologized for having failed everyone. Their hands nearly connect, but as they both lose consciousness, they drift apart and are lost into the darkness. Engulfed by the all-black symbiote, All-Father Thor channels the full force of the divine power in him and breaks free. Fighting his way to the surface, he calls out for Loki, only for Gore to stop on his head and attempts to push him back under. As the thunder rumbles in the distance, Gore sneers that King Thor, doesn't have enough power left to oppose him and the All Black, but Thor retorts that his thunder isn't his. The goddesses of thunder arrive and blast Gore with divine lightning. Frigga Marks asks if Thor remembers them. Aten sends her pet shark, Deathmouth, to find Thor and tell Gore they brought more than just a storm to oppose him. As Gore snarls that isn't possible, Frigga remarks that it is. Earlier on Endgard, Elivar reads from the saga of God Butcher and notes that eons ago, the planet was a desert wasteland whose tyrant gods had been slain by Gore the God Butcher. Frigga remarks that the entire planet now seems to be wandering with a garden. Elivar remarks that Engard's fortune changed when a young girl prayed to Thor, who was called to the world and brought rain. Hacking away at the overgrown brush with Mjolnir, Jarnbjorn, Atil uncovered a statue in the girl's honor. Elivar says that after the God Butcher was vanquished, Thor returns to the past long ago with the gods who saved the planet. Frigga retorts that the story is ancient history, and learning that they are all that's left of the gods, and that they are wasting their time here. As Frigga snaps that the age of the gods is over, Elivar retorts that Thor didn't let it end and kneel in the dirt. Frigga thus asks him what she's doing. Elivar retorts that she's praying, as Frigga snaps that gods don't pray. Atil angrily breaks up the argument by slamming Jarnbjorn into the ground and joining her sister in prayer. Frigga reluctantly joins them, and the three sisters pray to Thor. Themselves and the deities that are left conjoin a storm that restores the garden to life. A voice speaks Thor's name, and the towering green-skinned god of thorns spin rising out the ground, remarking that he remembers Thor from long ago. Elivar asks who the strange god is, and he replies that he is Rose Father of Endgard. In the present day, the Rose Father introduces himself and the other replacement Sky Lords of Endgard, the Meat Mother, Our Lady of Comet, the Crier, and the Prince of Shoot. To Gore, they declare themselves Gore's true legacy. Gore asks how dare they call themselves his legacy. The Prince of Shoot blasts him with ash and retorts that after Gore decimated them, he and the others were left without worlds of their own until Thor brought them into the pass of Endgard. The Meat Mother smashed Gore with a fresh his tendrils, and Our Lady Comet shoots Gore with a meteor arrow as they occurred, grabbing Gore in a headlock with his thorny arms. The Rose Father says that he and the others made Endgard into a paradise, all thanks to Thor. The Crier sings praise to Gore, the Redeemer, the savior of God. Screaming in rage, Gore frees himself using All Black and swearing to finish what he started long ago. But Frigg and Iliva blast him with lightning, and they say that he couldn't kill them even with the God Bomb. As Iliva snaps that Gore all out of the bombs, Ali says that they have won herself. As her sister restrains Gore with lightning, Ali decapitates him with Yarnbjorn, picking up his severed head and spearing that this time she will make sure he stays dead by throwing him into a star and then throwing the star into another star. Frigg interrupts her by saying they need to find Thor in the All Black. and that the All Black looks bigger than ever. Ilivar interrupts by asking, where is the stars? Where have they gone? Gore's severed head replies that he ate them, revealing that his resurrection body was a construct formed by the All Black, saying that he no longer has any need of flesh, and that his new body has been busy feeding on the ruins of the universe, and is now all around them. As Gore declares the beginning of the age of All Black, Thor bursts from the primordial symbiote of Deathmouth, bashing out with Odin's sword and Mjolnir. Thor tells his granddaughters to summon as much lightning and thunder as they can, and to find Loki before it is too late. Toothgrinder fishes Loki out of the All Black. The gods of lies jokes that Thor smells more like a goat than usual. Frigg snaps that this means they don't have to save him themselves. Loki greets his nieces, asks them if they're not still mad at him about trying to kill them earlier with his necro ravens. Frigg snaps at him to shut up, and that their only reason he's still alive is that their grandfather wants him as much. Ali quivers that there's hardly anything left to her to chop up, with Loki looking battered up. Ila smashes that the age of the God Butcher down on Loki's chest, telling him that the entire universe has been infected and that one way or another, this is the end. As she tells him they need to finish their own saga, Loki opens the book and quirks that he has already preferred an ending with a lot of tears and bloodshed. Thor is shocked to see the Sky Lords of Endor are still alive. The Rose Father replies that to Thor that not. Thor is shocked to see the Sky Lords of Endor are still alive. The Rose Father replies that Thor is not the only god to have survived the countless eons. The Prince of Shoot asks that they've been sleeping, and Meat Mother that they've been dreaming of their revenge against Gore. Thor thanks them for saving him, recalling the little girl who prayed for rain eons ago, telling them it's time for them to earn the right to call themselves gods, or die trying. On Midgard, a man shivers and wonders why it's so cold and dark, as he asks what happened to the sun. Another man tells him to just pray to Thor, and that they'll be saved. Arise the Deathmouth, Thor blasts his All Black with lightning. The ancient symbiote recoils with metal storms of the living darkness, berserker moons, and attempts to devour the gods, and black flame meteors, as Thor despairs that he now has to destroy the very universe he fought to save. All Black manifests Gore's face on the surface of a blackened planet and welcomes him to his Necroverse, his all-black universe. In the final issue of issue 4 of King Thor's run, Gore becomes one with the universe and turning into the all-black verse, his Necroverse, and Thor is the only thing that stands between him and the end of all of existence. With swinging a hammer heavier than a world heavier than anything he has ever swung before, been moved by the living being that he is Thor, the Thunder King, the Almighty Father, but today he earns another name, as well as knowing that Ragnarok has come, and it is Thor, the All-Butcher, the Annihilate God, the twilight of all that is or will ever be. All hail King Thor, the End-Father. With Gore mocking Thor, saying he cannot destroy him, and that everything now he has become. The surface clusters, the calm cells of the darkness, the nebula, are the fingers of Gore, and the black hole is his gullet, his hungry gullet, where he will be burst and be devoured on a molecular level, digested by the universe you have left forsaken. In his new universe, the gods, the very idea, the concept of deities will never exist. Loki approaches Gore attempting to attack him, with Gore easily dispatching him. Gore tells Loki, on the behalf of the entire universe, is hereby executed for the crimes too vast and too vile to mention. Loki tells the Butcher of Gods, I don't need a hammer or 2 arms either. I don't even need this goat at all. I need a word. By being consumed by the black hole, Thor has conflictions with himself, screaming for his father, thinking of his past life. He is uneasy of the quest from his father's love and appreciation, and his accomplishments, and his acceptance for him. His war with his own pride, his failure as a lover, a father, and an all-father. His everyday struggles to be worthy, with Thor screaming out loud his father was right. That he was not strong enough, worthy enough, God enough. But in the midst of his self-conflict within him, he realized finally what his father meant, what the spirit of the hammer is, what the spirit of thunder means to become the storm. With the power that Thor unleashes, the cosmic storm he raged, it is the thunder that rambles the lengths of infinity, shattering the pillars of creation. In the middle of the thunderstorm, Loki telling the Butcher God the story of every life his brother has ever saved, billions upon billions of them, every war he has ever fought and won, every grand heroic deed, even the ones no one knows about. Every moment of kindness, Loki knows the story by heart. Every word he has willed, it is like a knife in his ear of the universe itself, saying that none calmed to Loki's fashion. Gore was right, but Thor is Thor. With the combined powers and the efforts of Thor and Loki, the universe itself screams, and Gore is defeated. After the defeat of the God Butcher, in the present day of Omnipotent City, the Nexus of the Gods, the Lord Librarian, and Shikar are discussing the books that are on the floor, and that area are books of the history of Thor himself and his many deeds and adventures. But there are also stories yet to become books about the future. The first of these books take place many years in the future. There was an impending war among the gods of 2 rivaling lords that have assured the other grand legacy of stealing one's worshippers and threatening a bomb to each other's churches, to whom the rivals of the heavens. The responding officer employed unusual tactics to end the standoff. He told the warring gods that whoever can lift his enchanted weapon could prove themselves the worthiest, and the others better. They tried until they were both exhausted to move, let alone fight. and that how the officer Odinson evaded the war of the gods in the Exclo system. It is an age of divine law and order. When the great holy house of the cosmic had forged the treaty to bring an end to the age of the Pantheon Wars, wild outlawed gods could no longer evade justice. The justice that patrolled the spaceways from the sun period prime served in protecting all mortals who have lived in fear of an unruly almighty. The justice of the officer Thor, Odinson of the Universe God Patrol, the God Police, the Cop of Thunder. There is another story where the age of godly order would have come to a dreadful end with 1,000 nights of Ragnarok. The gods would have faded away and to fall into a hepta of eons to come. Some would have never wake again, leaving other forces to fill in their void. But some gods never rest. They merely change their form, left their old bodies behind in their old weapons, where once a shackle of hammers, now flew in forms of moons made of some solid uru. Thor Odinson was dead, so was born Thor, the Thunderworld. But the age of gods, or that the story would also pass as well, Thor would only one day regain his form, but then lose something even more precious deep in the jungles of Jotunheim, his mind. After an attack by the psychic frost giant assassins, Thor would be left a lost and amnesiac before being taken in by the wild beasts of the Winterland. Thus began the legend of Thor, Lord of the Ice Apes. But the soldiers of the Jotun king never stopped searching for their enemy, and it was only once they found him that the stranger story have yet to begun unfold. The secret story of Chola affair between the ape god and the frost's finest blizzard queen, or she-blizzard, in all of Jotunheim. The story that would spawn Thor's firstborn son, the giant of thunder, the Jotun prince who would one day sit the throne of Asgard. There is power in the tales of untold that their way our stories collided, intertwined, the ones from long ago, and the ones yet to come. The stories that have defined all time shown panels of Thor's grandchildren, even Phoenix Force Wolverine. We even see Balder become king of the Norns, keeper of the fates of all the gods. Jane Foster has the new Valkyrie, and Sif as keeper of the Bifrost. And when, even in the present day, Thor as the Allfather speaks to himself, telling why he leaves his hammer on the throne overnight, because the next day, if he can't lift it, he doesn't deserve to sit there. And when he lifts it, it's another day of being Allfather. Back to the far future. After the final battle against Gore came to a long sleep. For Thor, and for the mid of the God Butcher, where every trace of Necrosaur was gone from Gore, gone completely from existence, as they come telling, leaving but a shell of Gore behind, a shell of his former self, with Gore being in his garden, repeatedly saying, "Thor is Thor," and Rosefather telling the Lady Comet that this is his garden now, and they are not his jailers. We are what he needed most long ago, but was forsaken by. A man who would be cared for by the gods, amidst praise for the rest of his life. Was it heaven for Gore, or was it a form of hell? No one would ever know. On Midgard, a little spare of the universe after Thor obliterated the necro-infection, Midgard became its true what it always thought itself to be, the center of all creation. There was no Midgard. There was no Asgard. No more home amongst the heavens of the gods. Now they lived among the mortals, God and man working together in the dirt. Once Thor awakes from his sleep, a sleep to recover, his ruined body regrown at last. He was pleased to look upon this new Midgard, but there was still a great melancholy upon him, especially on the sunny day. Loki's final sacrifice that regained the sun at last. The last sun to say the final speak of life that's left in the universe. It was said you could hear Loki's whispers in the fallen sunlight, that his soul was like a burning inside the star, powering the star with words not lying with stories, but there was nothing powering the universe itself. Not anymore. After the battle with Gore, the universe was too damaged to sustain itself any longer, and that the pillars of the cosmos were damaged in his fight against Gore, and that was nothing but decay, and it's all will collapse around them. Entropy is spreading like a great festering infected wound, with Gore's grandchildren choking at the words that they have no idea how to stop the end, but Thor did. By looking at the end at the hand of Thor knew what he had to do. He told his granddaughters that he was proud of them. They proved themselves worthy of the storm. He envies the adventures they will have before them, and that he presents them with the true birthright, and considers it to be at last his last will and testament as All-Father. He drops his hammer. Thor basically pulls a Goku from the Cell saga. You know, when Goku went to go teleport Cell to save Earth? He tells them goodbye. The final words Thor shared with Mjolnir were Mjolnir alone, with his granddaughters. The King of Thunder, the Thunder King, shed a tear and took one last walk to the field of Midgard, telling every mortal alive to their faces, how much he loved them, and stopped to rub the dirt of earth on his ancient hands, into the hearts of where the universe was withered and collapsing, with Thor speaking out loud, "Father, I now know the answer. Let me show you, Father. Let me show you the spirit of thunder, what could possibly be severed off, such as consuming and colliding with oblivion. What manner of God would it take to pull off and hold up all creation itself for all of time, so that life might have a chance to endure?" When Thor was very young, when he was just a young boy, he said he was frightened by the storm, that he would cry frightfully in his crib whenever the thunder, and his father Odin became so enraged by this that once during a downpour he had the boar hauled outside the royal halls of Asgard, forbidden by anyone to give him shelter that night. Thunder rattled everywhere around the building in the realm. It was the frighteningest storm any god could remember. The next morning, little Thor was found, drenched to the bone, but without a tear in his eye. He never cried again at the sound of thunder, for in truth, what his foolish father was missed to completely was that Thor had never cried because of the thunder. The storm was his crying. Thor's first words were spoken with thunder, and so would be his last. The spirit of the sword is to cut. The spirit of a hammer is to smash. But what is the spirit of thunder? The spirit of thunder is to be heard. With a man and his 2 children sitting at a fire, and him telling about a story about Thor. But that's the end to today's video. This was part 1 of the greatest moments performed by Thor, the God of Thunder, and be on the lookout for part 2. I hope you guys enjoy. Please hit like, share, and subscribe, and also comment down below. I'm planning to do more uploads in the future if my schedule meets, and I hope you guys look forward to what's coming out. But until next time, peace.